Hey, it's the podcast guy.
Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. It's the Sutton Podcast.
And there it is! Sutton United of the GM Vauxhall Conference have put out First Division Coventry City, winners of the FA Cup themselves less than 2 years ago. And what a moment to enjoy for the fans of this Surrey side. They've had their moments before, but never one like this. But the whistle goes down. Delight for Sutton United. Sutton United from the National League are through to the last 16 of the FA Cup. No longer English football's perennial non-league club. A 123-year crescendo reaches a new peak for Sutton United, who are promoted to the Football League for the first time.
I think you're muted, Mike.
Thank you, Dan.
It's like being at work.
Yeah, this is brilliant. Hello again, and welcome to another episode of Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. I'm going to leave that in because I did a waffle. You saw me do a little dance when the video was playing because I was pleased, and then I forgot to unmute myself. So that's even just brilliant. We're, as always, sponsored by Lucky Star Gin, who I'm sure are kicking themselves right now, going, send that man a bottle for Christ's sake. I'm your host, Mike, and with me today on the panel, we've got Dan and Mark. We are going to be covering a trip to Swindon Town where we scored 3 goals away from home and still lost. And then we're going to look forward to, probably through fingers behind over our eyes and behind the sofa, a trip to Accrington, Stanley. And I said it for the first time ever without the accent, so that's always a good sign. Engagement is important, obviously. Please like, share, comment, retweets or re-X or whatever they call it now on all the social medias, and let us know your thoughts, especially about the new segments, which we're kind of testing as well. So, Dan, 4 weeks ago, I had you on the show after a very miserable away day and a horrible trip home and all the rest of it. How you been?
Do you bleep swearing on here? Or is it just a free-for-all? Yeah, that was interesting yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The first half was a fucking disgrace from us. I genuinely have been sat this morning, because I've been pottering around doing stuff, trying to think of a more aimless, clueless, dishevelled, just shambles of a performance than that first 20 minutes.
Okay.
It was disgusting.
We'll let you come on to it in a moment. Glad you got it off your chest. Mark, hello.
Hello.
We last saw you 2 weeks ago after a miserable away day. Yes, miserable away day.
Compare and contrast, because, a fortnight ago, we were doing all right for the first hour and it had a shambolic last half hour. It was the reverse yesterday, as Dan said, a completely shambolic first half hour. After that, we didn't do too badly. We won the rest of the game 3-2. And the last time we scored 3 goals away from home, I think, in a league game anyway, was Mansfield, season before last. We won 3-2. Swindon weren't great defensively, but they were actually pretty good going forward, whereas we defended like pansies at times.
Yeah, well, I think we scored 5 times away from home, but obviously won or drawn. All the others we've never actually lost. So there's something. But little bit club news. Ladies' side won 2-1 today with a last-minute penalty from Darcy. Scored twice. Apparently, all the sides won. I didn't keep track of the other scores, but all the ladies' sides won. So they're at home on Sunday if we want to see something win a game. So that'll be worth going to. And coach travel, as always, both trips to Accrington and Port Vale. Details are on the forum. I'm not sure the rest of the show is going to be an advert for going on away trips, but if you do want to go on away trips, please consider the coach as an option. Right, so beforehand, I did my little fan hub lineup thing. I think I only got 7 or 8. I was expecting Jackson, and I didn't expect Harry to be dropped to the bench. But what were your thoughts of Dan ahead of the game? What were you kind of hoping for? What was your expectations prior to kickoff?
I mean, I knew it was going to be a tough one because they have been scoring for fun. They put 5 on Wrexham. They put 6 on someone else. But that was it. And so yeah, I knew we were in for a tough one because of the way we've defended lately. We barring Wickham, we've not really looked like keeping a clean sheet most of the season. So I knew it was going to be difficult from that side of things, but was hoping that obviously looking also at their you can tell from a couple of their results that they've got good leads, and then Wrexham again being the big one where they got 4-1 up there and ended up drawing 5-5. So you can see that they've obviously got fragility as well. So it's just a case of we'll take a point, or whatever we can scratch here will be just take a result, and then the players came out of the tunnel.
Well, Mark, ahead of the game, I did kind of think to myself, well, one of the worries for this season was that we don't have necessarily a midfielder who's attacking. So I did wonder if Nguesson and Clay would be a bit defensive for us. How were you feeling ahead of kickoff?
Well, it's one of those games you go to more in hope than expectation. You hope that the fortune will turn at some point. But as Dan said, Swindon have been scoring for fun lately. Well, they did get a 0-0 at Doncaster, I think, in the previous game. Doncaster being the one seemed below us in the table. But I was a bit fearful. But you always hopeful, aren't you, as a fan? And one thinks that the fortune's got to turn sometime. But it obviously wasn't yesterday. I mean, there wasn't a lot of change. I think Christian and Nguesson in for Perry Buteman was the only change from the Forest Green starting lineup. And we didn't play particularly well in that game. We were awful, but we were second best. And you would have thought maybe we would have made a few more changes for the Swindon game, but just the one. And Nguesson, I thought, looked a bit lost in the first half. Clay played quite well, got the first goal. And Nguesson did improve a bit in the second half, but there wasn't really very much of a change in shape and formation lineup from the previous game that we lost.
Well, I woke up for some reason in a really confident mood. I mean, I joked around last week saying it's going to be a 5-5 draw. I couldn't think of a score, and I actually woke up this going, you know what? I really fancy this. I think we're going to do well. And I know you said when the players came out of the tunnel, but the first couple of minutes, I know we are literally talking 120 seconds. Things were going all right. Coley nearly robbed the keeper and could have got a nice little really early present. And then Swindon had an attack. Who wants to talk us through some of the goals? Go on.
I mean, the first one was...
Go on, Dan.
First one was just Coley and Kizzy combining up high up the pitch, give the ball away. The guy plays one straight ball straight down the line. Guy outpaced Ben, the only guy left back. And the finish didn't look great from our position above because it was right below us. And I thought maybe Jack might have dealt with it a bit better. Yeah. But once it went in, and you just kind of, okay, it's early. We can at least you've got plenty of time to recover. And after that, it's clocked off. We did nothing after that. The second goal wasn't great either. We had opportunities to get rid or didn't close people down quick enough. So the third one was, that was just the icing on the cake for that spell of the game. It was just so poor. People air-shotting, swinging wildly. Keeper doesn't, dominate his box. It's bouncing around, and the bloke eventually just prods it in from 4 or 5 yards. It was such a poor goal. Their lad barely celebrated it. So that's kind of how things went.
Yeah, so Mark, what were you kind of? I know you've seen them from the same angle because you all sit together in the away zones. But what were you feeling that sort of those goals? How did you see them?
Yeah, I mean, possibly Ben could have got a challenge in on their guy before he got the shot away, but he didn't manage to. It looked as if Jack was beaten in his near post. It was an accurate shot. It wasn't particularly powerfully struck. So I think Jack might be a little disappointed to let that one in. Second goal, I think I observed, it was quite like the one we conceded against Forest Green, that the ball was knocked out of our area. There was an unmarked guy just outside the 18-yard box who just stroked it in. Third goal, I think, described somewhere as comedy defending. I think Ben ended up on his arse, trying to clear the ball, and there are a couple of failed attempts to clear it. And Charlie Austin was in the mix there, didn't get the decisive touch, but Young, who got the first goal, just sort of prodded it in.
I think it was Dan who described it as thus. And when I saw that, I actually thought, the rule of three is about to be implemented here. What made you guys stay on? Was it just too early, Dan?
Yeah, a bit of that, and it was really hot outside, so at least we're in the shade where we were. So, I'm just trying to think of positives here. It was. I think after that they just seemed to. I think they just took a breather. That's the only reason I could think of how we got back into the game, because we didn't pick up pace, we didn't do anything, obviously different. They just let us have the ball a little bit. We made 3 or 4 passes, got it pulled back. I mean, Craig Clay's shot wasn't even very good. He didn't catch it full-blooded, and it didn't, nestle in the corner. The keeper kind of shoveled it in for him.
Yeah.
And then I guess from there they went, and had a wobbly 10 minutes, and we got the second.
Yeah, I mean, there was someone had said that during that first drinks break, someone had said they'd seen Dino giving an absolute bollocking to Louis and Goody. Obviously, I didn't see that myself, but did you guys see that as well, or was that exaggerating?
It must have been off to the side because they were just all in one big huddle. So I think most people were looking at that. I didn't see it, but
yeah, I didn't see it. Andy Kay mentioned that to me. I think he may have seen it. I mean, it's the sort of thing you want from a player on the bench. Showing a bit of passion. A bit of frustration at the scoreline. And on the back of that, I've seen the suggestion that perhaps Dino should start instead of Jack the next game, but we shall see.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll come to that. What I liked about that comment, especially, I think, was someone saying that Dino is far more reliable. It's like, hang on, are we ignoring all the things we used to go, fuck's sake, Dino? We're just ignoring all that. Okay, fine. All right, so for all that, we got back to 3-2. We had a very good shout for a penalty late in the second half as well, where it seemed that the referee played advantage for the penalty area. Have you guys watched it back, or?
Funnily enough, no.
No. It didn't feature in the highlights for some strange reason.
Yeah, that's also the problem with a lot of the EFL sort of the immediate highlights. They're only like 2 minutes long, and they rarely show kind of contentious ones. You probably have to watch the longer I-follow highlights to get any of that. Yeah. But I thought it looked like a penalty. Coley skinned the guy. It was a clear pull back in the box. There was no, Lino had a good line of sight of it. Ref was looking right at it. And because Coley got the pass away, didn't go down and got the pass away, I think maybe that's why the ref didn't give it.
Yeah.
I mean, that would have been interesting to be, because I did, funnily enough, turn around after we got the second. I turned to Gareth behind me and said, half jokingly, I will be level by half time.
Yeah, I know. And it was weird because, there's me going, we 5-5, joking around at 3-0, going, the comeback's going to be great. And then we start doing it. I'm like, please don't actually do this because I'll be really upset that I didn't put money on it. But second half, very early in the second half, again, Coley with the ball was in the net. He was called for offside. It did look like the fullback on the far side was playing him on ever so slightly. Really difficult, obviously, from the angles to see it. But being there, did it feel like that was a dodgy offside? I mean, I know there were like 3 other offsides in the next 5-10 minutes as well.
I wasn't sure. His I kind of at least gave a little bit of a celebration for before looking for the linesman's flag. Harry's one shortly after, I looked straight at the linesman because he looked miles off.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Coley one was certainly close. I wouldn't want to, without seeing it again, I wouldn't want to kind of say either way.
It's a difficult angle. Mark, what were you feeling at the time? Were you feeling kind of this is on here?
I just paused because I wasn't sure whether it was going to be allowed, and straight away it was disallowed. There was no sort of long pause. It was disallowed very quickly. The flag went up almost immediately.
Yeah, we don't want the VAR business here. But yeah, so we then I'm getting confused now. We went 4-2 down, which again the heads could have dropped again, but being positive, they didn't, and we did come back again with Harry scoring. I'm not sure if it was deflected or whether his first thing was deflected off the keeper and then he had a shot, but Harry's got his 3rd goal. Which I'm quite pleased at, a Sutton player getting 3 goals already, and then that Jake Young's on 8 or 9. I'm like, actually, maybe it's not such a great achievement. But
don't forget, Harry missed 3 games, and arguably 4 if you count the game which he was sent off.
Yeah.
So I think that's three goals in 5 matches, which is not a bad return.
No, I suppose. But again, were you kind of thinking there's still time here, even at sort of 4-3, 5, and then they made it 5-3, which I think was a good goal, the 5th one. Were you kind of thinking we could still do something here, or was it just like, no, that's it, it's gone?
I think once
they got the 5th, yeah. But once they got the 5th, you thought it's all over. And that was about 87 minutes, wasn't it?
Yeah, 5th came. I mean, even when they added 8 minutes, although even then, a minute into injury time, Harry blazed a great chance over. I mean, again, if he puts that in, every time it's a 1-goal game, there's always a chance. You've always got a chance. But one thing I will say about Swindon is every time we got close, they always just seemed to have enough just to go up that gear and grab it, just go and get another goal. So I think even if we'd have got it to 5-4, they'd probably have added a 6th before the end, I think.
And I mean, lots have been made about Jason doing the interview instead of Matt. I think it's actually the first time he's done it this year, but he did loads last year. We're not reading too much into that, other than Matt's just got the raging on. What do you reckon, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, Jason did, as you said, quite a few last season, and he hasn't done one yet this season, so it's probably his turn. And Matt's probably getting a bit cheesed off with, giving gloomy, summaries of matches that we just lost. So he probably felt it was fair to Jason just to share some of the pain. So I suspect there's not a lot more to it than that. I mean, there was a few comments I saw about Matt not being visible in the technical area during the game. I didn't notice that one way or the other, to be honest. I'm not reading anything into that.
No. And Dan, again, same as not.
Yeah, I mean, I know Matt was sat down a fair bit towards the end of the half, but to be fair, they've been stood out in what was 30-odd degree heat. He's a big lad, big baldy lad, doesn't generally wear a hat. So, I mean, he maybe just thought, he was just having a sit down because it was so bloody hot. But yeah, I mean, I, as soon as the final whistle went, I just went outside to wait for it. Went to the cars and went outside. But a few people were saying Matt didn't clap the fans, but apparently he did. He was just stood out talking to the fitness coaches and a couple of the other guys before coming over sort of last. So I mean, I don't think anything of it. I mean, it was probably Jason's turn.
Very unlikely, and probably just sitting down as I said, because him and Jason are both defenders, and they're watching a 5-3 game, going, "Jesus Christ, what's going on?"
There is that. Yeah, he probably fancied taking a weight off while he had a breakdown or something about our defending. But
right. Okay, so I've got a new thing that's come out, and this company contacted me. They do a board game called Pundit. If you after every match, they're going to there's a survey we can do, and you can rate the players. Great match to start it off with, but But there's also a 40% off code. So if anyone actually does it, you get 40% off code, which is really great because it's not costing me any money either. So this is awesome. And there's some chance to leave comments. So I'll do the first one, which is got bored of the Swindon keeper just kicking, and the left back just kicking the ball back and forth to each other. The keeper must have held on the ball more than anyone else in the pitch. Very boring. Again, boring when you win 5-3. I mean, I don't know. Lots of other comments of where has horrible Sutton gone? We don't seem to be the big physical bruising side that we were. Then lots of questions about defensive frailties. Kizzy looks all over the place. There seems to be no communication. We look like we're getting an attacking force and playing some nice passes, but definitely not defensively. Shambolic defensively. The attack was good, and it's hopefully something we can improve on defence. So, I mean, what can we improve on? How can we improve on things in defence? What is different this year to the last kind of 2 to 3 years?
I'm not entirely sure what is precisely going wrong. I mean, I don't think Joe Kizzy's had a particularly good start to the season. One thing we did actually notice yesterday was he's got Josh Coley in front of him, and Josh for some reason keeps wandering in field, which then when the play comes back to our right, there's just tons of space, and for a winger or a wide player or a wide midfielder to just attack Joe Kizzy. And also, if you've got a fullback who likes to push up, it's easy to double up on him in an attacking sense, which you don't want. That seemed to cause us a lot of bother yesterday. Yeah, I think the main change is that once he deems Jackson fit enough, I think he's starting. I think that's really the only thing you can change there. Centre backs, we've already used Omar Shomi there, and with Ben and with Lewis. So I don't know what. Maybe the problem is that Rob Milsom's playing pretty much every minute at the minute. You know, we can't seem to get anyone fit to kind of help him out. So he's playing every game and getting run by younger, more mobile players. So maybe a bit of a change there just to freshen it up might help.
Yeah.
And like I say, I think that there might be a problem with the midfield as well, because one thing I've definitely noticed is that there's so much coming through the middle of us, which never used to be the case. I mean, it's been noticeable in the last 4 or 5 games where literally one pass from midfield is just carving us open, and someone spun off a centre back and they're in. And that never used to be something, you'd see it occasionally because it happens, it's football. But there's been at least 5 or 6 games where we've had at least one incident of that, just putting someone in one-on-one with Jack, which is something you've got to cut out as well. So I guess this is why Matt's the manager and I'm not. He's the one with the coaching badges. I can think of things to change, but I don't think it's anything glaring. I think
it's not going to be as easy as just getting Eastie back, is it, Mark? It's I mean, we can't be relying on one player.
I actually checked when we lost Eastman. I thought it's before the Wimbledon game, but it wasn't. He actually went off very late in that game, so he played during that Wimbledon game when we were pretty awful. Wimbledon probably should have been 2 or 3 up at half time, but they got all their goals in the second half. So Eastie played in that game. So I don't think him coming, and he's expected to come back next Saturday. I spoke to him yesterday. He said he should be back next Saturday. But that's not necessarily going to fix everything. What Dan was saying about us being sliced out through the middle, Swindon's 4th and 5th goals yesterday were both like that. Both came through the middle. Just cut out our players, and the ball was put through and scored. I mean, they were both good goals, to be fair, but with a bit more defensive resilience, we might have stopped at least one of those two. There's obviously a clamour to start Jackson instead of Joe Kizzy. Whether there's still a fitness concern about Ryan Jackson, or whether Joe Kizzy's got some compromising photos of Matt. I don't know. But I think Jackson has to start, really. When he played against Wickham, and we looked at a different side in that game.
In that game as well, one thing I did notice was that Coley wasn't wandering infield as much, purely because he's got a 32-year-old League One fullback behind him, screaming at him, chatting him, telling him where he wants him to be. So,
is he more scared of Jackson?
But sometimes it's a communication thing. Some players do, they're not switching off. They feel they need to be involved. And Josh is a winger, so he obviously wants to be getting on the ball and getting forward. So it's maybe just he's kind of drifting in a little bit so that he's closer to the action and can pick the ball up a bit more easy. But as I said, by doing that, he leaves a massive hole there that the oppo can exploit and attack our fullback a lot easier. So I don't know. Maybe that could be something as well. That just little changes, I guess.
Well, you mentioned Josh, and there's kind of little things with these stats that I get from these things. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to use them yet. But it was interesting to see some of the ratings that people gave and compare them to like the professional sites. And Josh Coley actually got a higher rating from us than all the other sites. He's the only player that had that. Others were very close. Joe, people I think were being exceptionally harsh when his ratings just about half what the actual like WhoScored.com and Football Mob their ratings. They rated them about 5.9 and we gave them a 3.3. So some people have been exceptionally harsh there. The other one that we got slightly different was Clay. We gave him an average of like 5.7 and he got an average of 7.8 from all the sort of professional sites. Again, don't know what the data on. I would say the fact he scored had something to do with the data, because usually when players score, they get something. But I didn't want to labour on this, but because I probably know most of your answers. Lots and lots of talk from various people of changing management if the poor form continues. You were both there on the bad seasons we had. Does this feel like one of those bad seasons, or does this feel like, you know what, we've been unlucky so far?
I wouldn't say we've been unlucky. Probably, okay, that's probably a bit unfair. I mean, with a bit of fortune in a game or two, we might have got better results, so we wouldn't be sitting on one win. But a lot of the performances lately are nothing to do with luck. It's just not been good enough. And what makes it even more frustrating is to go all the way up to Wickham on a Tuesday, watch us play a League One side the way we did, put in what I think was probably a trademark Sutton United under Matt Gray performance across the park, 1 to 11 and the subs. No one let us down. Everyone put a shift in. And then we go and do what we did on Saturday against Forest Green and then yesterday against Swindon, which, to be quite frank, are nowhere near that. I mean, it looked a totally different side. You know, none of that energy, none of that cohesion, none of that shape, none of that. I mean, yeah, we showed a little bit of, at least a bit of fight once we got it back to 3-2, because it's a 1-goal game then yesterday. But yeah, I don't think we've been unlucky. I think there's just something needs to be sorted as to what that is. I'm not quite sure. I wish I knew.
I think basically the team is not the sum of its parts at the moment. You know, I think on paper, Matt's assembled a good squad. He's mentioned that a lot of the experienced players he's brought in haven't had much or any pre-season, and that may be a factor. So maybe things will come good once those players are fully up to speed. But as I said 2 weeks ago, I just think the defence has had a sort of bit of a collective meltdown since the end of last season. They just seem to have lost something, whether it's confidence, I'm not sure. But I think sometimes when one member of the back four, you know, drops a level or two, the others drop as well. They drop as a unit. And I think that's happened. It happened at the end of last season. Okay, Kobe's gone, but otherwise it's pretty much the same players. And that sort of continued into this season. And they're just not showing the same sort of form that they were sort of mid-season last season when they were playing well as a unit.
Okay.
And how you fix it, I don't know.
Yeah. I as I said, I'm going to say there is absolutely no point changing the manager because you've still got the same players. And any manager coming in is going to say, well, I want to get different players. We've got to wait till January. So it's like you've got a plan for these players, put it into action. One thing I kind of think of, and I was like, oh God, do I want to say this? Matt keeps saying, like you just mentioned, I've got to get what I want from these players into them and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, hang on. When they were complete strangers, we battered Notts County 5-1, and now we've had them for like several weeks. They're getting worse and worse. maybe don't introduce them to each other. Do no training. Just rock up on Saturday and see what happens. Right, I know you two are not going to want this at all, but I am sticking with the moment of the match. So, can one of I don't know who wants to start. Have you been thinking about it? Give us your moment of the match.
I think I'll go with our second goal because it kind of came a little bit out of nothing. And I'll be honest, bar us making a bit of noise, like, yeah, we might be back in it here. You could almost smell the fear from the home end, where they're like, they're going to do it again. Sort of that Wrexham stuff. And you could have heard a pin drop for about 5-10 minutes after the goal. And then we should have had the penalty as well. That was probably one of the highlights. What was an otherwise ragged day.
Mark, what was yours?
I was going to go for that goal, but instead I'll go for what happened immediately after Harry Smith scored to make it 4-3. And if you watch the highlights, there's a load of booing coming from presumably from the home fans. I'm not sure who they were, whether they're booing Harry Smith or their defence. But there's a load of boos that are very clearly audible on the coverage. So I'll go booing of Harry Smith's goal for us.
Okay. Well, mine was the one I've already mentioned. Way at the start of the game when the sun was shining. It was a beautiful day, and Josh nearly robbed the goalkeeper. And it was like, oh, that would have been a real nice Sutton type goal, just stealing that ball and locking it in. We'll teach you to fanny around a bit at the back, but it didn't happen. But I'm still putting it in. Okay, so we're going to look forward, and very patiently. I did say we might have a lot to talk about, but very, very patiently, we have Gary, Accrington Stanley fan. And again, I hope you appreciate the fact that I've had to practice all week on saying Accrington Stanley properly and not with the accent. Okay? How are you, Gary? How are you?
I'm fine. Thanks for having me. I think even for people in Accrington, sometimes it's hard to say Accrington without a Scouse accent because of the everybody. When you hear other people say it over the years, so well done.
Yeah, no, it's one of those weird things because it popped up on I think TikTok with some bloke put kids if your parents just cannot say Accrington without a Scouse accent, this is why. And it's like, why is that advert just stuck in our brains for like all these years?
Yeah.
What on earth about it made it stick? But yeah, exactly. Can't say it in this house about that. But tell us a little bit about yourself. And I know you dropped me an email and you told me that basically all your life. But how long have you been supporting Accrington and what kind of got you started?
Yeah, so I've been watching them for about 30 years now. The first game I saw was the first time we got to the first round of the FA Cup proper against Crewe in 1992. And I think a lot of people my age, that was their first game as well. They played it at Ewood Park because the Crown Ground, as it was called then, wasn't big enough to hold the 10,000 fans who watched the game. So it was quite a big event in those days. And I watched games on and off over the next 10 years. I played a lot myself on Saturdays, pub team level, nothing fantastic. And then when I sort of stopped playing, I got a season ticket, and I've been pretty much a season ticket for the last 20 years. So the last few years after COVID, I've tried to make more away games than I used to, just because you never know when it's going to be taken away again. So that's kind of my history. My dad got involved again around the same time. He ended up being commercial director for quite a number of years, and he saw the club come from sort of the Northern Premier League through to the Football League, and help generate some of the funds to do that as well. So I quite proudly point that out to people when I can as well. But I now just cheer them on from the terraces, basically.
Excellent. And I asked this question to make me seem like less of a weirdo, but what kind of traditions or superstitions do you have on match day?
I try not to get into those kind of OCD type habits, but I did wear. We went through a bad spell a couple of seasons ago, and I started wearing a Father Christmas hat at the beginning of December, which was red and white, obviously. And we didn't lose when I had that on, and I think I was wearing it till well into March one season, because we were either, well, we were getting points anyway, and if I didn't go to a game, those were the games we lost. So I just took it that the hat was the lucky omen, but that's probably about as far as I go. We have our routine, which is just, have a couple of pints before the game, go in the sports bar after the game and what have you. But no crazy superstitions unless a particular item of clothing does start bringing us luck.
Well, of all the crazy things that I've done, Mrs. actually pointed out the other day, she goes, it's really strange because you always hear about people wearing their lucky pants to football, and you've never, ever had that. With all the other weirdness you do, you've never had that, I must wear this pair or this top or whatever. So what's your kind of, you may have done it with the FA Cup exploits, but what's your kind of go-to memory? What's your, here's why I support the team?
God, there's a lot. I've been asked this before, and yeah, there's because I think as an Accrington fan, up until last season, every season brought some kind of new progression, new high, new sort of great memory. I think what's got to be probably the pinnacle was when we beat Bolton 7-1 a few seasons ago. They're ex-Premier League team. They're only 15 miles from us. I wouldn't call us traditional rivals because we've never really been in the same league for the past 100 years or so, but I think they scored first after about 10 minutes, and we thought, oh god, we're going to get battered here, and we scored, and it just went on and on and on, and we couldn't believe it. It was I think that has got to be one of the highlights. I mean, they've got their own back on us plenty of times since, but I think that for me, it's up there with the best, really. Although I'll have probably said in when I previously been asked that question, it was some other game. So if anyone's keeping track, then I apologise.
Yeah, we've done that. I'm sure, Dan, you've done that as well. When you get asked like the BBC London, they give you these 10 questions, and you're like,
it's always the question you get asked. Yeah, it's always the question you get asked, and when you've been watching kind of as long as we have, it just changes with the wind. It's just what your brains maybe just can pick out of that pile that day. I mean, everyone else could probably name it. If they ask you a top 10, you could do it. But what's your favourite game?
One of them I was asked, and I said I tried doing a list. I thought I'll mention as many games as I can just to like cover it all. And I said the time we played Tottenham in the FA Cup, but we've never played Tottenham in the FA Cup. So that's how good that memory was. It was actually Fulham. I was just thinking of a London team in white. So,
a dream of pulling Tottenham out of the hat, and we're now that's fine. So we one of the ones we often get asked is your favourite goal, and it's like, come on. So I think the stock answer is Louis John's second goal in the when we won the promotion. It was a crap goal, but it won us promotion. So it's like,
that's the one at the moment. It'll change.
That'll be the same for us. Paul Mullins' goal against Woking that won us promotion to the league. And it was the worst goal you've ever seen, really, but it was like the best ever as well. So it's kind of a similar moment, I think.
So the season so far, I know last season wasn't great and it's slightly against what you used to. But how's the season been so far for you this year?
I think we coming back down into League Two is definitely unknown territory for everyone, including the managers. I think the management team. And now we're 7 games in. We've played a lot of the teams who were up for promotion or who were finishing strongly, like Gillingham did last season. And I think we've relaxed a bit. A lot of people were thinking, "Oh my God, we might go straight through back into the conference." Others were, "No, we'll walk it. We'll win the league." And I still maintain I think we'll make the playoffs if we can keep everyone fit and the young team that we've got starts to gel. We've only got a handful of experienced players now. A lot of the guys are sort of under 23 or from the just hitting that sort of low 20s age bracket, and they're doing all okay. Yes, they're naive. They're doing silly things. We're giving the ball away too easily. We're making sort of silly mistakes, but that's League Two football anyway. I mean, if we were that good, we wouldn't be in League Two. So I'm quite happy with the start. Bit disappointed yesterday with the 3-0 because I think if we played that team 10 times, we win 5 and they win 5. There wasn't a 3-0 difference between us and Mansfield, but I think whoever was going to get the first goal in that heat yesterday was always going to be sort of tough to then turn over that just because of the conditions. You had to work twice as hard and it was very difficult. But all in all, I'm quite happy with the start. What are we, 15th, sort of mid-table? If we end up there at the end of the season, I don't think anyone will be disappointed, as long as we're not top in February and then drop to 15th in the meantime.
Yeah,
of course.
It's all relative, isn't it?
Yeah.
But so this is a slightly odd question, and you from what you said. So from our point of view, and don't worry, Matt will not be reliving this whole podcast, but from our point of view, what needs to go wrong for you for us to take advantage and win this game? So what needs to happen for Sutton to win?
Well, you set up brilliantly for it. I think you've won 1 game this season and you're sort of down the bottom end. So that typically for us spells the absolute death knell for any hopes of a win. Especially since we're playing at home as well, because we've been better away. I think we've had 2 away games, haven't we? And we've played. I mean, at Notts County, I thought we were very good, even though we lost 3-1. With a lot more shots, plenty on target. Their keeper worked the hardest. So I think if you guys, I think you've just got to be patient. You've got to be stoic, organised. Just keep just keep putting balls in there, keep plugging away. Our defence, I don't think we've played the same. I mean, it's a 3 or a 4 or a 5, depending. I assume it'll be 3 at the back against you guys, but we haven't played the same players in 2 games since the start of the season because of injuries, the odd suspension and what have you. So they're relatively untried. They haven't played a lot together, so you will have mistakes at the back, and sometimes midfield end up trapped at the wrong end of the pitch quite often. They're either stuck in defence when we're attacking or stuck in attack when we're defending. So I think if you get an early goal or get the first goal, we do seem to struggle from that point. Teams who score first at the WAM seem to be the ones who get at least some points out of the game. So I recommend you score first.
So question for Dan. I'm going to duck in a second and get the beat counter out, but. What do we need to do personnel wise, tactics wise? What do we need to do to get something out of the game?
I think we need to find our mojo again. We need to just find that. I mean, if you could basically take the performance from the League Cup game at Wycombe and even get anything close to that, then we've got some chance, because that just means we've shown up, we've performed, and everyone's done their job. which we just don't seem to have done a lot this year. I think Jackson has to start just to give us a little bit of extra experience down that wing. Like I say, maybe you can get a leash on Josh Crowley, stop him wandering off. And also, Ryan has that huge throw-in of his, which we saw very briefly on Saturday. So that's also something at this level gives you opportunity to get the ball in the box and to put them under pressure. So, one thing we definitely can't do is start like we did Saturday. We have to get 10, 15 minutes into the game and at least be competitive. If we're not, then we're in big trouble.
And Mark, what do you think?
I think early in the game, we just got to try and keep the ball as much as we can. It doesn't matter if we're not threatening the opposition goal. I think we just got to make sure they don't have too much of the ball and build attacks. So look after the ball early on, just build confidence, keep the sheet clean for the first 15, 20 minutes, as Dan said, and feel our way into the game. And if we can get, into 20 minutes or so without conceding, we can be a bit more adventurous.
Okay. And I'll start with you on this one, Dan. Is there any potential implications if we don't get a result? I mean, it'll be 7. Or is it just okay? Carry on.
If they get stuffed again,
on the season. I mean, yeah. So I meant not for the season, not the season.
Well, I mean, if they get stuffed again, then the clamour is going to get louder for Matt's head. And the problem is at the moment it'll be 1 win in 8, and I think it'll be something like 1 win in 18 going back to last season. So it puts him in a tough spot, and we are at a point where the club does have exterior kind of voices now with the investment and stuff like that are involved in the day-to-day running. I don't think they're the kind of hair trigger type people, but you don't know. Our board used to be quite solid. If they could see that things were there and it was just a little bit of luck or a bit of fortune or something like that, then we'd be all right. But I don't think it'd spell the end, but it would certainly pile a lot more pressure on. I think the most important thing is a performance. I think we have to turn up. We have to put in a shift. If we get beat 1-0 or something like that, again, you can then, but you've got something. You've got something to show for it, and you can build on it. But if you turn up and, if you don't show up again and you get beat comfortably, sort of 2-3-0, and don't offer anything, then you've got real problems, because we're closing in fast on a quarter of the season. Yeah, and it's a bit of a mess at the minute.
And same to you, Mark. I mean, put it another way, Accrington are a League One side who's just come down, and as Gary said, they've got kind of hopes of maybe pushing for the playoffs. So, what are the potential implications of not getting a result there? I mean, is it disastrous for the season? Our
next two matches in the league are against two of the relegated sides, Accrington, and then a week later, MK Dons. I think there's less pressure when we're playing away, because there's less expectation that we should win. So I think, as Dan said, if we just lose 1-0, and we put in a performance, that's not going to be calamitous. But if we do lose, there's going to be huge pressure on the following game when we're at home. Okay, MK Dons have started the season well, but the game after that, the league game after that's an away game. So I think there's going to be an awful lot of pressure on the team and on Matt to get something from that game against MK Dons. If we lose at Accrington, draw, I think, relieves some of the pressure. A draw away from home is usually an acceptable result, and that will arrest the run of defeats. So, a draw, I think, will be respectable and will give Matt a bit of a breathing space. But as I say, defeat and that MK Dons game on the 23rd becomes massive.
Okay, and Gary, slightly different position, because obviously we're little old Sutton. You've been little old Accrington for years. What's it going to be for you guys season if you don't get a result against Sutton?
If we don't get a result, or if we do,
if you don't.
There is a section of the fan base that are quite what's the word? They like success. They want us to keep progressing as we have been doing, and to have the knockback we had last season Sort of people do question whether John Coleman, has done all he can for Accrington. Those of us, I think the vast majority of people think, well, to be honest, Cole, he's done more than enough with 4 promotions to earn plenty of leeway in terms of any failures. And I don't think that's happening this season. You might hear, a few cries of, oh, here we go, if we do get beaten by Sutton, just because of the fact you're at the bottom end of the league at the moment. Maybe not just because you're Sutton, just you were one of the teams who aren't potentially performing so far this season. We would hope to beat you guys. Like you say, as we've come down from League 2, we have lost quite a lot of our experienced players over the summer, but there's the majority of the squad have been together, for a season or so. So although they may not have played a lot of first team football together, they are, they're not strangers in that respect. So yeah, I think we are expecting to get a result and would hope to get a result. If we don't, I mean, John, like I said, John's got a lot of mileage in the tank to not be under any pressure, certainly not from the chairman anyway. Some fans, as at any football club, would perhaps be saying, this isn't good enough. But I think, we're still early in the season. I don't think realistically we expect to go straight back up, but it would be nice. But to not get promotion back to League One is no means a disaster. I think a mid-table finish would be deemed acceptable by most people. So we're going to expect to have a few blips along the way, particularly this early into things. I hope that answered the question there. I sort of rambled on a bit.
We could kind of interchange supporters because we've got exactly the same thing. We've got a whole bunch of people going, that's it, it's got to go. And then everyone else going, oh, shut up, behave yourselves.
Just listening to you guys talking about the game yesterday, I thought you could just interchange Accrington Stanley with Sutton, I think. And it's probably the same for a lot of teams in League 2. I think we're all in a similar position. And, we're waiting for one key player to come back. And, there's the same sort of dynamics going on for everybody, I think. So, yeah, it's not a surprise, really.
Okay, so we have just implemented this brand new thing. Dan loves this bit. I know Dan loves this bit. You're going into the change room 30 seconds before the kickoff. You get your chance to speak to the players and give them a final message and give me a prediction for the game. Before you do, hopefully there will be a graphic on the screen, if I've done it right, showing a QR code. There is. And look at the colours. So you can scan that and join the prediction league if you're watching on video and all the rest of it. But Dan, give me your message for the players and your quick prediction.
A message for the players. More Wickham, less Swindon.
Okay, lovely. And what's your on-the-spot prediction?
It's got to turn at some point, so I'm going to try and be positive. I'll go with a 1-1 draw.
Okay.
I'm not brave enough to go for a win.
And Mark, what's your message and your prediction?
Just don't concede in the first 30 minutes. Doesn't matter what you do, just don't concede. I was going to go for 1-1 as well. Can I go for the same? Does it have to be something different?
You absolutely can. No, absolutely can.
Yeah,
just out of interest, don't concede in the first 30. What if we score 5? Will you still be upset if we concede in the first 30? Gary, what's your message for your players and your prediction, please?
I would say to our players, concentrate more. You need to concentrate more. Play the simple ball. Don't try anything fancy. And just remember how we played against Notts County, because that was probably the best football we played this season, despite getting beat. And yeah, get the shots on target. We're fine. And I would predict, hopefully they've listened to me, and I predict a 2-0 win.
2-0 win. Okay. Right, so I've been doing all sorts on the behind the scenes with my prediction league and working on automations and all sorts of other things. And the score I kept putting in to test it was 1-1. So as soon as you should go for 1-1, I'm like, oh, for God's sake, I've been doing that for like 8 hours, 1-1. So I still have to go with 1-1 because that's what I've been doing the whole way through. So that's a really exciting range of predictions here. But we're going to wrap up the episode. It's been a bit of a long one. Thank you all for bearing with me and Gary for your patience. I said, it might be a little bit longer depending on what happens. But it was a lot longer. As always, thank you for everyone for listening. I really appreciate your ear attention. It will hang on. It will catch on. Don't you worry. Let me know what you think about the new segment with the player ratings. Follow, like, share, all the other usual stuff on social media. Thank you, as always, to our sponsors, Lucky Star Gin. Thank you to the panel of Mark, Dan, and Gary. Next up, we have got next Sunday, because I think I'm going to skip Wednesday. We've got Paul, Ali, and Rory, I think, and we're going to cover. I'm still looking for people to cover the Villa game afterwards. So if anyone's going to the Villa game and wants fancy doing a bit of the podcast, give us a shout. Get on that bandwagon early. I know Papa John's have dropped it, which, by the way, has nothing to do with Pizza Cup Master Song. I just need to put that out there. It's not why they dropped it. But take care. We will catch up soon. Thanks a lot, everyone. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Cheers,
Cheers,
everyone.
guys.
United! United! United!